Hey everyone, I am back. Hopefully, you guys had an amazing Thanksgiving. I wanted to do this yesterday, but haven't gotten around to wrapping this up. So I did. So, what I'm gonna be doing is wrapping up November movie review months with the classic and easily one of the most historical, well regarded films of all time, The Godfather. It was specifically the Godfather Trilogy. Now, I'm let's cut the BS. The first two films, they're going to be amazing. It's just like very few issues I have outside of maybe certain things that happen to certain characters that kind of left out on the table between 2 and 3, but they kind of resolved in like books or something like that, which obviously is only a handful of people actually bother to read them. The third one is regarded as like the runt of the group, mostly because this is, all three is directed by Francis Ford Coppola, one of the most held in high regard directors of all time. Which his daughter, Sofia Coppola, who has become a well-regarded director in her own right, directing films like Lost in Translation. Didn't even realize that was her. Who had a part as the daughter of Michael Corleone in the second film, because she was a little kid at that time, but when she, I'm assuming, was more so like in her late teens, in the third film, reprising that same role as the daughter of Michael, which is like kudos to her. It's just like her first kind of big major film she was a part of. But he did not care to make that third film, pretty much like Christopher Nolan, who did not initially wanted to make a third Batman film, but it's just tales of its time, apparently, where studios, when they got a good thing on their hands, despite what the director might say, despite the fact that they, don't have any idea of a story because they didn't care to make a third one, they told all the story they feel like they needed to tell. But studios tend to push, usually with a bunch of money on them, so they kind of like, twisted their arm into making a third one, as almost always don't turn out as good as the previous two. But I think over time, people, at first, people really did not care for Godfather 3. But I guess, like, over time, it just became, it's fine. It's just that mood. It's like, it's a fine film. It's okay. It's very middle of the road now. I think that is about as softened as people has become over the years. It's been, the last time I saw the Godfather trilogy, I was a small kid. I seen it quite a bit of times, but it was I was a little kid. It's like I liked it, but I didn't really really retain the details of like the craft of the film. I knew it was good because I watched movies like Scarface or what's that? Godfather Casino, and then one with the Goodfellas. So it's just like, oh, they kind of blend together as like kind of like an cool action film, in a way, like Commando or Terminator kind of thing. But as a motor, I can appreciate like the details of the craft and crazy stories behind the scenes where there's certain like uh, a mafia. Well, I don't say mafia, but it was just like during the first film, there was some blowback from the Italian community. It was around the time during like a Italian kind of civil war thing going on during the making of the first film. Like, I'm not like too in depth. It's like I'm, pretty much got a little bit of information that I'm going off of right now. But there was like a little pushback when it comes to making the first film because it, certain Italian people was worried about how this film will depict Italian people as a culture. And one of the few things that they really requested, Coppola did not use the word like mafia, for example, because you notice there was not a use of the word mafia at all throughout all three films. That was like it was big on that stuff, and don't present them in like a negative light. I think Coppola was very fair on that one because it didn't glorify like Italian mobsters. It just highlight kind of like the truth about like the Sicilian culture, because you spent a lot of time seeing scenes from Italy, and over into the old country, and of course Little Italy in New York. It just, and it's also like not just with the crime family, but just regular people living like their normal lives. They get caught up in this mess, and like the culture and everything like that. And that's why I put it on the list, because Italian families really like stick together. It is like crazy important to them. So I think Coppola did an amazing job in making sure that he was honest on both ends on how this world, especially during this period in time. Sorry. During this period of time, you know, that it didn't shy away from anything, but it didn't like make them look bad. It's kind of like, you know, if you was like making like the black version of this, like use like a good example, like the Denzel Washington film American Gangster. It depicts a known criminal of a particular time period. I'm pretty sure it was in New York, Harlem, during like maybe like the 60s, something like that. And clearly, it wasn't glorifying anything, but it also depicts like how like black people had to, survive. They had to stick together. They usually have to go to, criminals like Frank Lucas, I believe the character was, because the cops at that time, not only there was corruption, but fair bit of racism outside maybe like a few people that weren't. But it was like, it was during that little transition, getting to the 70s, it was like, there was like a cultural shift of acceptance, especially, after the death of Dr. King and Kennedy. You can tell there was like a huge shift of certain narratives. Um, 1 second, everybody. 1 second. Yeah, sorry. It was a little too dark for my taste, and like I had to take a call really quick. Matter of fact, I think it's kind of better right now. At least for right now. You know, anyway, let's continue on. Yeah, like I said, this is an amazing. Well, the first two films is amazing films, but the third one is like okay. But man, as I was saying before, yeah, Coppola did an amazing job. Make sure this was balanced out because you want to make sure that he was honest, but he was respectful at the same time, showing like all facets of the Italian culture, the both the good and the bad, and he made sure that it wasn't insulting either. There was no real stereotypes. Even when he's talking about the mobster life, there was no glorifying. There was grit to this. This how like because even like some of the extras in like the crime families and stuff like that, they were legit mobsters. They got roles, and even there was actually consultants from that kind of life, putting their input in terms of the writing. That's why it's always remained so authentic. And it's always been looked upon in great admiration because there is no fluff. Very very little of rejiggering in terms of historical input. Anyway, so this is the first time I'm actually probably gonna be. I don't know if it's gonna be the last time because I rarely do this, but because each movie is so long, and it took me a couple of days just to make sure I got them all because they're very long movies. I thought, okay, at least for this one particular review, I'm going to do a combination and talk about each movie in segments. As a matter of fact, I didn't even remember this. The second movie actually has an intermission because it was so freaking long. But and it's hard to tell because a lot of people struggle with this between part one and part two, which one is their favorite. And I think most people, well, I was about to say give it a slight edge to Godfather 2, but it's just the only reason I say that because De Niro's portrayal as a young Vito Corleone was amazing. But part one, we got a Marlon Brando as an older Vito who is exceptional in this. So it's just like, wow. As a matter of fact, I think Al Pacino's performance I think Al Pacino's performance and Robert De Niro's performance were so stellar. It's just like it's just beyond exceptional. One second here, because I'm. I was wondering if there ever been like a biopic on Al Pacino because his life is kind of fascinating. Because I'm trying to what was the first? Because I think Godfather was his big breakout role, but I'm pretty sure he acted in other stuff. Way before that, he was on Broadway. Pretty much. But in any case, of course, the players involved here: Marlon Brando, Vito Corleone, Al Pacino, Michael, James Caan, older brother Sonny, Richard Castellano. I might butcher most of these Italian names, so forgive me. Plays Peter Clemenza, Sonny's godfather. Robert Duvall as Tom Hagen, the consigliere of Vito, and also a lawyer and unofficial adopted member of the Corleone family because he was found on the streets very young and Vito brought him in, kind of thing. Sterling Hayden as Captain McCluskey, a corrupt police captain. John Marley as Jack Waltz, Hollywood film producer. Richard Conti as Emilio Barzini, a rival crime boss. And by the way, if you ever read the Batman Long Halloween, it took heavy inspiration to The Godfather, as you see, like especially in the first film. So, like during the opening of the comic book story, is like almost a mirror image to Godfather Part One, very one to one. Like I just immediately brought me back to that book. Uh, uh, Al Lettieri as Virgil Salasso, Diane Keaton, the late great Diane Keaton, who fairly recently passed away, uh, plays Kay Adams Corleone, Michael's girlfriend, who later became his second wife. That was a whole thing. A Vigoda as Salvatore Tassasio. Talia Schier as Connie Corleone, Vito's only daughter. Gianna Russo as Carlo Rizzi, Connie's abusive husband. John Cazile as Fredo Corleone. We'll get to that guy pretty soon. Rudy Bond as Conio, another rival crime boss. Al Martino as Johnny Fontaine, Vito's godson and famous singer. Morgana King as Carmilla Corleone, Vito's wife. Lenny Montana as Luca Brazzi, Vito's enforcer. Johnny Martino as Paulie Gatto, soldier of the Corleone family. Salvatore Corsito as Armigo Barnasera, the Undertaker, who we see early on in the right at the opening asking for a favor from the Don. Man, it's a lot of people. Richard Bright as Al Neary, the soldier in the Corleone family. Alex Rocco as Mo Green, a Jewish mobster in Vegas. Tony Giorgio as Bruno Tattaglia, a rival mobster. Vito Scotti as Nazarene Baker, associate of the Don. Terry Livrano as Teresa Hagen, Tom's wife. Victor Randina as Philip Talagalia, head of the Tagalia. I'm just gonna say Tagalia crime family. Jeannie Lorino as Lucy Mancini, Connie's friend and Sonny's mistress. That swerves back around in the third film. Julie Gregg as Sandra Corleone, Sonny's wife. Samanita Stefanani as Apollonina Corleone, Michael's Sicilian wife. Very brief Sicilian wife. Okay. And that's pretty much the bigger people here we're going to focus on. The way this movie opens up is incredible. It's very iconic. One of the most iconic opening scenes to a movie of all time, where we see the baker that I just mentioned was asking for a favor from the Don on the day of his daughter's wedding. And I watched this at least a handful of videos, not an active viewer of this guy's content, but I've seen him pop up every once in a while, especially reviewing scenes in video games or movies depicting like mobster actions and lives and weapons and stuff. Uh, Crap. His name Michael something. He was also on Piers Morgan quite a few times. Uh, okay, here we go. Michael Franzi. Michael Franzi. So he also, make a note about the this a little bit of in-depth info about what went on behind the scenes of making of The Godfather Part 1 and 2. He doesn't really hold Part 3 in very high regard for a very good reason, because nobody really care for Godfather 3. Like, I think we softened over time, but man, it is just like the runt of the group. You can just tell that Coppola did not want to make this movie. Anyway, uh, uh, he points out that the whole, the day of the Godfather's wedding is when he sits down with people and they get to ask a favor that he'll decide he can take care of whatever. It kind of sort of does happen, but it doesn't necessarily need to be on like a day of a Godfather's wedding, or have like a mafia his daughter's wedding or anything like that. Just it's usually it probably is a specific date, or or just like settle an appointment or something. But it doesn't really need to be some kind of special occasion in order to like make a particular request. And of course they're favors. So eventually he'll ask for something in return at a unforeseen date, which is like a smart move, because you don't necessarily need to like have them pay for favors. It's just like sometimes a favor in return is almost as valuable, if not more valuable, than money, because you get like certain perks or certain doors open for you because you did this person like a huge solid. We see this like wedding, and it's the most we spend like almost 27 minutes on this wedding alone, because we get to see all these different people, like the inner circle of Vito. We get to see Sonny, who brilliantly played by James Caan, because you forget how young he looked back then. A lot of them, because we see Armand Arsante in the third film, and it's like, God, like this dude was so thin and so like young looking. It's crazy. Even with like Al Pacino, it's like he is so thin of a pencil of a dude back then. But we see Sonny, getting on with the mistress, which I didn't even realize that was the best friend of his wife, who we find out later conceived a son in the third film that will be known as Vincent. That because he never knew, because he ends up dying in the first film. Like I said, this is a full-on spoilers, so we're gonna be trying to get all through all three. He's begging his mistress at his sister's wedding, where his wife is also at. But this dude is so bold. But he also got, we meet the children of Vito. Sonny is like obviously like the high head of the group, but looked on to be like the obvious, contender for uh, as like the future Don or Godfather. We see Fredo, and we immediately understand that Fredo is a complete idiot. Uh, and God, it's just like I want to point this out now. Fredo's probably like, in terms of movie history, he is probably like the biggest traitor in movie history. If a guy like that was, like that in real life, he'll be right up there with like uh, Brutus and Kane in terms of historical most infamous traitors, as well as like Benedict Arnold, which literally his name is turned to a verb meaning traitor. And Fredo is right up there. Now, the best traitor stories is one that is kind of sympathetic. I think Brutus and Cassius are like, well, I probably, and Fredo's probably the only three that's probably a little bit more sympathetic compared to the others, because, of course, traitors usually birthed out of jealousy in some capacity. Kane obviously was just greedy and, not greedy. I'm thinking of crap, the guy who portrayed Jesus. That guy. That was more so out of his name escapes me. Hold on, portrayed Jesus. Like, crap. Because Cain was just out of jealousy that God, he thinks God was favoring his brother Abel more. But who's Judas? Literally, like Judas and Benedict Arnold, our names is just designed to mean traitor. Judas is more so out of greed, so I can't really feel bad for him for what will happen to him eventually. But Cassius and Brutus see like, okay, they're not the same like condone it. Nobody condones it because no society ever looked upon traitors favorably at all. But you can understand, like, oh, Caesar never want to give up his power, and they've seen in history what that will lead to if this guy will turn into a freaking monster like previous people in this position have. They don't want that to happen to Rome, so they did what they did. Doesn't excuse it, and obviously, people did not care for it, and they end up dying later on while trying to escape, justice. Fredo, you do feel bad because of the fact that he was looked upon like lesser compared to his siblings because he, was a bit of a klutz. Well, it's not a klutz, like he's clumsy or anything like that. It was just in terms of intelligence, he, not that he was like, retarded or anything like that. It was just, he just didn't have the mind and the grit to do what was necessary to be an effective leader and run certain things in the organization. So his father put him on very simple tasks, things that are well within his capabilities to handle, and equal parts less likely for him to screw up, but also even if it does happen, there's no sweat off his back. It isn't going to hurt him in a big way. Even if something messes up, it's like an easy fix. It's like, like a spilled milk can just wipe up and go about his day. Because anything bigger than that, it'd be the equivalent of leaving a kid home with matches and expecting everything to be okay when you leave the house. That's pretty much Fredo. Uh, but he's still smart enough to pick up on the fact that he was looked down on and felt a certain way. And as much as it's like people admire Vito, he didn't really do a very good job of making sure his sons, like all of his children, are loved in a particular way, because they're not all the same. Clearly, Sonny has like a bit of a temper. His daughter, he didn't probably vet the guy that she ended up with, that turns out to be an abusive psycho. I don't know how he didn't, keep it, vet the guy properly to make sure that this guy wasn't like an abusive a-hole. Because he should have been able to pick up on that kind of thing. He seems like a very intuitive guy. Fredo, he should have probably been like, not coddling the boy, but it's just like, give him like a boost of confidence in some kind of thing. Like give him like a task and like praise him for it, making sure like build up his confidence so he can have the necessary backbone to handle bigger responsibilities and the confidence to back it up. It didn't seem like he did that for Fredo. He's kind of like, it's just like, he's like a little bit of like he's a good boy, but he's kind of like an idiot. But it's just that one that wasn't fair to that kid. He didn't seem like, nurture him in a way that would have boosted his confidence to make him not as an idiot. Or at the very least having like a sit down talk with the kid and it's like, look, I love you, you're my son, I'm never gonna neglect you or anything like that, but I'm gonna be real with you, you're not gonna be very effective in terms of leading anything of note, at least in terms of like, you're not gonna be Godfather. I'm just gonna like pull that cord right now and let you know. However, I do have trust in your capabilities in certain criteria, so I'm going to leave you responsible of these particular things. I'm not going to neglect you, but your skills only can has gone so far at this point. And you should have at least that conversation with that kid, because now he will end up turning like traitorous because he felt overlooked. It's kind of like with like Loki in like the Thor films. He felt like he wasn't part of the family for real because he just felt like, well, it's slightly different because he was adopted, but he just felt like neglected to some capacity, not truly loved or truly belong by comparison to everybody else. Then you got Michael, who's, he looked at it as like the good son that he needs to have far away from this life and really like, because I'm not sure why his first two sons got so heavily involved the way they did. He should have kept, well, maybe not Sonny, given the fact that his age and where he was, when he was born, it probably was inevitable that he would want to get involved with his father's life. That's one thing. But for the rest of the children, he should have tried his darndest to make sure the rest of them don't get involved with this kind of thing. But it seems like he wanted Michael to be the legitimate, Michael and the Connie to be the legitimate children, and not be a part of this life. To the point where he tried to fund, we learned in the second film, tried to fund his son's college, or at least not fund it necessarily, but try to he definitely pulls strings to make sure he gets to a good college, but he like I don't want to go to college. Just I want to go my own way, so I end up joining the army. Which in the beginning of this film he comes back as like a war hero, won a medal in something. What was it? Uh, he won some kind of medal, at least one medal. It doesn't really say which one he won, but uh, but as we come to learn, and that's the greatness of that speaks to the greatness of Al Pacino's performances because we see him evolve in this incredible arc through these three films. We see this young whippersnapper coming straight from the army, coming back home, uh, and he's not like a snot nosed kid, but the way you see him like sitting down, you know, in later scenes, hands in his pocket like the youngest like child, kind of just, you know, listening in, and he's paying attention, but he's listening in. He's kind of like, you know, just like, you know, he's kind of slouching. He just like be seen not heard kind of attitude, because he really can't speak up amongst like his elder brothers and his father in the room because he's like, okay, I don't have no room to speak at all. I'll give my 2 cents when asked. Uh, but you see him have courage and respect the family and also he's still like he acknowledges the importance of the family and what it means. But he's come back home with his girlfriend, who will later become his second wife. Uh, uh, and you know, Vito obviously loves his youngest son. And he refused to take a picture, a family group picture, without uh, the entire family. He knows his youngest son is coming. That's why he's kind of holding off on doing too much stuff at the wedding because he needs his entire family there. He knew his son was coming. This kind of runs good, like a good parallel to that. Kudos to Coppola. That in the third film, when Michael is a lot older and he has his own kind of family and there's all this other stuff going on, he making sure that Vincent is included into the family photograph and not feeling left out. Yeah, good parallels there. Um, and also we see like clearly FBI agents because the you know the Long Halloween did the exact same thing, having FBI agents writing down all these license plates of visitors coming to this wedding. Uh, it's hilarious, you know, how much they took from this film. But uh, we see like his godson show up, this famous singer who wants to be a part of this big movie project, but the Hollywood producer Waltz didn't want him to get involved because he just out of just bitterness that because there's a lot of you know Italian racism going on, and yes, Italian people are white people, which proves that you can be racist towards white people. And Italians was like really, you know, getting their fair share of racism, especially around this time. And the fact that we got like in the second film, some kind of like what was it, a senator or governor or something like that. It was one of the two. Uh, 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 yeah, it was a senator. who was being like incredibly offensive, because like the Italian people are very passionate, very affectionate, and very, I don't know if it's just just their personality, but they tend to be very charming of a people, and especially when it comes to the guys, they can very much like have some level of skill pulling girls. So there's some bit of like bitterness because this Hollywood producer had some kind of young star that he I guess was involved with to some capacity, but the singer got was trying to get involved with his motion picture, met the girl, swooped her off her feet, things led to another. So it was more so out of just straight up bitterness that he just didn't want him involved in his movie. And there's nothing anybody can say, do anything about it. So he comes right back home around this time when he can ask for a favor from Don, even though he is the godson. He's the little godson of Vito, so he could have asked at any time if he really wanted to. But it was at least one of the most iconic lines in movie history. And he's like, I don't know what to do. You can act like a runner. I don't know what to do. It's like, God, Lee, that was an amazing. God, just that performance from, like, oh my God, Marlon Brando was freaking amazing at that. God, Lee, God, that performance. And it's like, this trilogy is probably the most quotable trilogy of all time. Even the third film, where you get that line from Pacino, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people, between that and Say Hello to My Little Friend, it's like, every time I try to get out, they keep pulling me back. And it's like, those two lines are probably the most quotable lines of Al Pacino's entire repertoire of movies. And Brando, between that, they massacred my boy, and his lines in like Superman as Kal-El is heading off to Earth. It's like they're great people. They wish to be, they only like to show them way. That line, those like pop anytime you speak Brando's name. Those particular lines pop above anything else. Is him as Jor-El, and Vito is probably his most memorable performances of all time. He's been in a lot of stuff, but those two particular things, it just like clinches it in terms of actor performance of all time. It's kind of like Heath Ledger's Joker. It's like that, just like, okay, he is like nailed that role, and everybody's kind of chasing that high. Kind of like with Christopher Reeves with Superman. Everybody else that comes after him is going to be chasing that high. Anyway, so Vito sends out his consigliere to go speak with this Hollywood dude, and of course, he's like, Waltz is like, no, absolutely not, and like, I'm not gonna be budged by you mobster types. So the consigliere goes straight back to the airport to give this news to Vito, and immediately, in a boss move, immediately retaliates by cutting off the head. Is one of the most iconic scenes in movie history. Cut off the head of Waltz's prize horse and leaving it somehow without him noticing, leaving the severed head of that horse inside his bed to wake up to, showing that he can clearly get to him at any time, making him an offer he couldn't refuse. Also another iconic line in movie history. To get his godson that part of the movie that he wants, because he just want to expand his status and success. Uh, Eventually, that favor comes back around, even though uh, Vito would later not be able to uh, play that favor. Michael will eventually play it later when he has uh, uh, his relative, the singer, to perform at these casinos and getting other famous people that he knows to perform at these casinos that he's trying to, gain control of in Vegas. So I'm glad that comes back around. They didn't just straight up forget it, because you would think, because the movies are so long, you didn't think like they remember certain bits and pieces. But Coppola's pretty meticulous. At least it seems so, that things just comes flowing back around. Because you tend to forget certain things. Uh, uh, Vito gets into a meeting with a rival uh, mob boss who wants to get into the narcotics business, but Vito doesn't want to get involved any way, shape, or form, and he's trying to do so diplomatically, because he knows this kind of stuff leads to trouble. The reason he got the position he in, because he like more, because his legitimate business is in olive oil import exports, but his seedier stuff is more so in gambling and prostitution, those things that most people partake in. That's why he got like governors and senators and judges in his pocket the way he does, because they partake it in these kind of things just as much as like the poor people do. So it's not really that much harm, and it's usually adults involved. Narcotics gets everybody involved: children, adults, teenagers, and it affects certain cities. As we learn in history, how it corrupts and destroys certain cities, and or not cities, but just neighborhoods, and just corrupt people's souls. It does severe damage, and Vito knew this. He anticipated this. He was, like I said, he's very attuned in this kind of things. I'm just kind of shocked that he allowed his daughter to get involved with a woman. With a man who clearly is got a temper and he's abusive. He just clearly saw certain signs. And given the fact that you get involved with a woman whose father is a mob boss, you should be minding your P's and Q's. And I mean, not saying like you let her walk all over you. Clearly, you're the man in the house. What you say goes kind of situation. You got the final say. Blah blah blah. But on any other circumstances, you still don't put your hands on a woman at all. But the fact that you got the gumption to put your hands on a woman, but on top of that, a woman who's the daughter of a mob boss, you don't think that will come back around on you. He's so brazen to do so. You don't think that will come back around on you. You are an idiot. And it's like, I would not even dare to lay my hands on a woman, period. But let alone a mobster's daughter. You was at this guy's wedding, surrounded by clearly a bunch of enforcers, people who he is well connected with, and your idiotic self do something that stupid. That blows my mind. So I don't feel bad for a guy, period. But I also don't feel bad, that his stupid got, caught. I was like, dude, God, you're a moron. And you deserve every inch of a beating and eventually death that will be laid down on you. I don't feel bad for them. Dude is like a monster. And Anyway, because the guy felt disrespected that Vito didn't want to get involved, probably mostly because Vito is kind of like respected amongst the five families, so I guess he really wanted his like backup on this, because if he's involved, then everybody else will kind of fall in line. But because people love Vito, as we see in the part two, he accumulated trust and respect rather than fear, like most mobsters, especially those who came before Vito, ruled by fear. He didn't work that way. Fear will eventually come bite you in the ass, but respect lasts a lifetime. Even if he was a monster, a mobster, he, wielded his power fairly and not cruel. Uh, 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 so, out of retaliation, the guy put a hit on Vito. Now, Vito anticipated some kind of move he's going to make. That's why he had this big guy, Barzini. No, not Barzini. Luca Brasi, to like kind of go and pretend like meet up with the guy, pretend like he's turning traitor to speak with this rival, Salazzo. But Salazzo like didn't trust it. He had that guy killed immediately. Uh, uh, um, then while Fredo was driving his father, this is where you see this dude's a complete moron. Is like too completely inept to handle even like a bodyguard job. Where while his father was picking up some fruit at the nearby market, dude's rushed up. Dude took too long to get out of the car, and he's fumbling the gun, unable to fire back, while his father getting lit up by like 5 or 6 bullets, which miraculously he managed to survive by the skin of his teeth. Uh, uh, but Michael wants to do something about it, but Sonny is like, no, like you're not getting involved. So Sonny and the consigliere are pretty much like running point on this, despite them butting heads, because the lawyer is like, no, we gotta play this smart. We can't, because he works so well with his father all these years, mostly because they gotta play this smartly, because we don't want to start a gang war. We don't want this spilling out into the streets. We gotta, play it smart. But Sonny's being a hothead, wants to attack and hit him where it hurts. I mean, they're right on both counts, but the answer is like somewhere in the middle. But then he gets word. It doesn't help the fact that he gets word that his sister got beat by her husband. So him and his monster friends come up on this dude at his house, and in front of the view of everybody in the street, beats this guy relentlessly in front of children, parents, darn near everybody, and just like taking like a trash can lid and just like molly whops that guy. And it's like, if you ever touch my sister like that again, I'll kill you. But this dude ends up working with another enemy that comes swerving his way around, or is it the same enemy? Uh, um, anyway, uh, I'm blanking on which one came first in this next part. Uh, um, oh, uh, Hagen gets picked up by uh, uh, Salazzo to pressure him to uh, get Sonny now that he's running things to get him, involved with the narcotics business with with his family and their family. But then word got out that Vito will survive. Now he's worried about retaliation, that the job wasn't done correctly. Uh, 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 Michael goes to visit his father and discovers that the police protection that's supposed to be watching over his room aren't there. It's like a darn near a ghost town until like a nurse shows up and realizing something's up. He has her help him move him into a different room, and he shows up outside thanks to the help of the baker who's trying to send flowers. He steps in to back up Sonny. Despite him being nervous, realize like, oh, just pretend like you're like one of our people, just like to scare off any would be like people, uh, which works for a bit. Then the police shows up and shows we see like the captain clearly on the take. Michael calls him out on it, and then he gets uh, uh, punched in the face by the captain. That's when Hagen and the others show up to pick up Michael, and Hagen right away let him know like about the law and what transpires if he pursues anything that isn't like a legitimate warrant to do so. It'll be breaking the law. So he gets him out of there, and of course Michael gets a bruise. So uh, despite people being against going after a police captain, Michael points out, well, we got reporters in our pocket. We can easily point out the fact that he was clearly corrupt. So this ain't your normal police captain who is on the up and up. He's clearly corrupt. So he's in our life, so it's fair game. So they organize having like a gun planted in the bathroom of the restaurant that uh, uh, Salazzo chooses, where he's supposed to meet up with him and the captain to negotiate a deal. So Michael shows up unarmed, goes to the bathroom, finds the piece, shoots both of them, and then runs out. This allows the others to send him out to Sicily to hide out for a while until the heat dies down, because this will start a full-fledged war now, because it wasn't clearly authorized. Uh, Things get worse when one of the five family heads got a hold of Connie's husband, who ends up going against the family. After beating his sister, beating Sonny's sister savagely again, he she ends up calling her brother again, who uh, takes off without protection heads into like a toll booth area where there's an ambush where he gets lit up by Tommy gun fire. Uh, and one of the shooters like kicks him in the face to boot, and it's like just disrespectful, and runs off. Now, while in Italy, despite Michael being involved with a girl back home, meets up with this local Italian woman, Apollina. Uh, they uh, get to know each other, end up getting married. And clearly, at least a couple of years goes by. Um, uh, while he's supposed to be protected by two like bodyguards. Uh, while in one of the cars, turns out one of his bodyguards turned traitor, left a uh, explosive device inside the vehicle, which exploded, killing her. That was meant for him. Maybe it's in like a separate book, but it's never fully explained what happened to that guy. If Michael ever got retaliation on that guy. So the Vito family wasn't safe anywhere. So Vito, after collecting his boy's body, has one of the undertakers that owes him a favor to help take care of everything. He ends up going to the organizing a meeting with the families and express that, look, there's not going to be any retaliation. We want to end this war. People are hurt on both sides. I just want to get my final. I want my youngest son to get home, protected. Nothing's going to happen to him. Like, look, I ain't trying to retaliate, but if this, if we're, trying to broker peace right now, because I'm not trying to get involved in narcotics, but I'm not going to interfere or encroach on anybody's little powwows. But let you know, while I'm forgiving this, if something unforeseen happens to my son, where he, if he's like gets hit by a car, blown up, shot, hit by a bolt of lightning, that I won't forgive, and that will be some retaliation all around. So I love that line of dialogue showing that, like, he's clearly fed up, but he's trying to operate in the most diplomatic way as possible. But as time goes on, Vito gets a little older. He's bequeathed the Godfather position to Michael, who is using his father's more so as the consigliere for the time being. And before Vito ends up passing away, he gives a final warning to his son about, this meeting. They're going to try to suggest a particular place, but don't trust it. They're going to try to utilize somebody you think you can trust as like a peace offering to lower your guard, and then he's going to assassinate you. So he sees this coming at the funeral, and once this guy Tessio is being the one that turns out to be the one that's going to be organizing this little shindig, he then picks up on this, has the other 5 family, or at least the other 4 families, all bumped off immediately, way before this supposed meeting is supposed to happen, while he is taking communion as the godfather of someone's child. and he ends up having his sister's husband uh, taken out because he was a part of it, and I'm pretty sure he was fully aware that he was assaulting his sister too. So, and and he denies having Connie's husband killed to his soon-to-be wife, straight up lying to her face. Whereas the movie ends with him being introduced as like the new Godfather. Then we get into part two, where it's a nice little blend between a prequel and a continuation of Michael's story. So we'll kind of focus on like the prequel first to get that part out the way. We get to see Robert De Niro kill it as a young Vito. Because as I was watching this, I was like, because I completely forgot there was like this was a thing. Because I was thinking like, man, that'd be like an awesome prequel with a young Vito and his rise to power. But I was like, oh no, they technically did that with part two, but it wasn't like the entire film. They could have maybe broadened it out in a singular film. Uh, uh, but it works. It's fine. Matter of fact, uh, cause like man, it's like what was De Niro's first film? Three Rooms in Manhattan. Uh, Young Will's Greetings, The Wedding Party. Is that a Broadway play? No, it's a film. Uh, Samsung. Samsung. Sorry. Uh, Bloody Mom. Sorry, Bloody Mama. Hi, Mom. Uh, got Mean Streets, which I think probably would be considered his breakout role because that was directed by Martin Scorsese, technically. Uh, uh, that was back in '73. Then Godfather Part Two, then Taxi Driver. So he was on a tear in the '70s. Getting into the '80s. So yeah, like he was no, clearly Robert De Niro was no slouch in terms of acting performances, but I think like his performance as Vito Corleone and Taxi Driver, that's probably like the biggest performances that people remember, like breakout moments, because he nailed it here, even like down to the mannerisms and the way Brando spoke. Even in Italian, he manages to pull it off where he sold it completely. I completely bought a young Brando in this. And speaking of young uh, uh, Brando, Billy Zane's supposed to be making some kind of movie where he stars as like a kind of like a Marlon Brando biopic. I'm not sure that came out yet. One second. Waltzing with Brando. Yeah, it was released September this year. Uh, it looks like it was very average reviews because it wasn't terrible. Anyway, so we see like a young Vito in Sicily, where he witnessed his family get murdered by the local crime boss there. He already lost a father, which they was in the middle of the funeral procession, uh, trying to deliver him to be buried. But then his older brother got bumped off. Then it's just him and his mother, hoping to plead to the crime boss sensibilities. It's like morals. It's like, hey, you know, please. It's like, I don't want to lose any more of my family. It's just me and my son now, please. And of course, because I forgot what Vito's father did, because he did something that might been innocuous, but he still considered an offense. Something I can't remember, but sorry, something on my eye. So the mother hold uh, this monster at knife point, telling Vito to run off, while she gets gunned down in front of him. As he's run off, he manages to make his way on a boat going to New York, where it's around that time where people were, America was accepting people from other countries to, like the saying on the Statue of Liberty, give us your tired and your, so and so and so and so. So uh, there's a lot of people from Italy and other places too coming in New York Harbor. They give him the name Vito Corleone because he couldn't speak English all that well at that time. So uh, we see him later, grow up a little bit, working at the grocery store with some a couple of friends of his. He met a girl, started a relationship. Eventually, started having children with the girl. But then, the this is in Little Italy, mind you. There was a local mobster who was pretty much running that area with an iron fist, completely polar opposite to Vito, as we see him later in his life. So, uh, 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 Vito starts working for. One second here. Uh, he ends up stealing for a living. Uh, 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 he saw like stolen dresses door to door. Uh, uh, Vito eventually decides, okay, we need to get rid of this guy because he is trouble. So he takes it upon himself to straight up assassinate this guy. Uh, we even see like, because the violence, they don't shy away from certain violence in Coppola's films. He ends up putting a barrel of his gun inside this guy, this mobster's mouth, and just we see his brains literally get blown out. Uh, so he escapes, and because they couldn't prove it, the locals know that Vito was the one who managed to take down this corrupt dude. So he started to open up his own little shop which will turn into this like little olive oil business. People end up going to him for favors. Like this one woman who uh, is getting penny pitched when it comes to the rent by this guy who's kind of his landlord, and he essentially, this is where it starts with making an offer he couldn't refuse. Little by little, he started to earn the trust and respect of the people. He then eventually becomes Don, a monster. We see him, having his children and everything like that. He eventually got big enough where he takes his family, fly back to Sicily, where he want to start up his, expanding his olive oil business. But he also went there to finally settle the score for his family, because he haven't forgotten. He knows the guy that the mobster there still alive, very old though. He goes there, puts a blade in the guy's stomach, and kills him, and escapes. Uh, like I said, they could make a whole entire new movie, kind of expanding on this entirely. Just primarily focus on this era of Vito's life and what happened after he get his revenge and make his way back to America, and him meeting up with a young Hagen, getting him to become his consigliere, all that stuff. That'd be very interesting to see. But then we go back to the main story where after the stuff that went down in New York, Michael, now the Godfather, making his expanding into the Nevada territory with casinos, and hopefully trying to set up some casinos in Cuba. And this is just slightly before Castro eventually will take over. It's right around that time. But this guy, this the Jewish monster, Green, not too thrilled about Michael honing in on his territory when everything was working fine, but Michael was willing to buy him out. But then now he has to answer to a bullet, because in the previous movie, Michael ends up taking care of him and the other four families. So he's pretty much like number one at this point. Kind of similar to how the part two opens with kind of a party in Michael's honor. He was doing some kind of celebration. Where he's speaking with this Senator Pat, who insults his Italian heritage, but also tried to stiff him on the casino license or something. Demands a bribe to secure the casino license. Not too happy with that, so eventually, through some assistance with Hagen, because they find out that the senator likes his prostitutes, ends up killing one and convincing the senator he has something to do with it, so he can go crawling to them for help in order to secure the license that they need. But there was an assassination attempt in his home. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the supposed gunman was found dead in a ditch. So, leaving Hagen in charge temporarily, he goes to doing his own investigation. It's kind of ironic that he goes to Cuba, which he turns, in the later film Scarface, playing a Cuban coming from Cuba to go into America. It's all kind of like, I don't know, it's poetry and rhymes. Uh, he ends up going to Cuba, meeting up with this guy named Roth, who we find out later was the gunman, who he thought was this other guy that was part of the family. Uh, uh, but we'll get into that in a second. But he sees the civil unrest happening in Cuba, and it kind of makes him kind of a little weary on setting up shop here. But Roth, not so subtly, hints that he knows that he can't prove it, but he knows he has something to do with the death of Green, which he had like a friendship with. But he also makes a statement knowing that this is the life they chose. You don't agree with certain moves he made or his attitude. I still consider him a friend, but I decided not to question anything, knowing that this is the game that we chose to play in. But if I don't see that money in my room, then I'm going to consider us not friends. So clearly there's like a threat there. So, Michael ends up putting out a hit on that guy, and then comes to discover that Fredo has something to do with that attempt on his life at his house, which clearly put his wife and children in danger. So it is during New Year's Eve, and that infamous kiss of death, like, "You broke my heart, Fredo. You broke my heart." And knowing he's afraid to go back home, despite what Michael says, like, "Hey, you come home, Fredo. Like, just come on home." Given the fact that Castro is like running things now, everybody's trying to get up out of there quick, fast, in a hurry. So Roth, Michael, Fredo all leave separately, but Roth, after escaping a assassination attempt, tries to flee back to Israel because he was already going through health problems, but they weren't accepting him back, and he tried to go to another country. They weren't accepting him, so he was pretty much like forced to go back to America, where Michael managed to send like a goon to take him out, which the local police and guards there take him out too, selling that. But then we got the other guy he suspected before, but because he tries to Frank Pentageli, Frank almost lost his life in an assassination attempt, but managed to escape thanks to some cops. It just so happened showing up in the nick of time. So now he's trying to turn state's evidence as like a witness against Michael's criminal involvement. But then Michael brilliantly gets his brother from Sicily to come all the way down here just to show up, just to show like his only brother. So it's kind of like a threat, pretty much. So he conveniently forgets all the stuff he was trying to testify about, which landed him in a military prison, which he then to make sure that no retaliation goes against his family, he ends up taking his own life, selling that little story. But then Michael gets confronted by his wife, who we were led to believe she had a miscarriage while his trip to Cuba, but turns out she, smorted, smorted the baby, because she, and this is where like I'm getting, it's like I'm baffled by this woman here and her decision, because even though he refused to let her on the know about his criminal activities, despite the fact she kept pressing him to give her some answers about certain things, he told her he's not going to tell her. But she just did not like the idea of what's carrying on, because I guess he bit off more than she can chew, or he gave her false promises like he's gonna go legitimate after 5 years. It's been 7, blah blah blah. So she was feeling some type of way, and she thinks like, oh, this guy is a complete monster. I'm not bringing another child in this world that might get mixed up in all this mess. So she took it upon herself to get rid of the baby, which causes him to lose his cool and smack the crap out of her. And told her, like, you're not taking my kids away from me, but you can go. You can, like, just, I don't want to ever see you again. And, this part kind of reminds me of the Daredevil TV show where Kingpin's wife, Vanessa, saw him blow up most of Hell's Kitchen in the first season, and she was like darn near all in, giving him pointers and and assistance and stuff like that. She was down bad. Despite I don't agree with all that stuff, anybody would have been running for the hills. It's kind of the polar opposite here. Or matter of fact, that wife, Vanessa, and Michael's wife, and then I'm also thinking about Ray Liotta's character in Goodfellas, his wife. These wives, this is like, they're dumb for different reasons. Now, the Goodfellas wife, it just, her and Diane Keaton's character act like they're brand new to this. Even though you might not know the ins and outs, I think Ray Liotta's, wife in Goodfellas probably know a little bit more than what Diane Keaton's character knew. Mostly because Michael refused to let her too much into his stuff out of her safety. But they weren't dumb. They know their husbands were mixed up in, of course, criminal activity. Clearly, they didn't want to let you in on too much stuff for a reason. You had an out long ago. You could have left way before y'all started having children with these guys. But no. Tells all this time, girls getting involved with bad boys. Typically criminals. But then you want to act shocked and stand over your husband while he's waking up in bed with a gun in his face, or then snorting a baby out of spite to the guy, to your husband, without his knowing, just to try to get back at him because you felt some type of way, you felt lied to, or felt some type of way. And it's like, what do you think was going on? Do you think he was running a nunnery? Do you think he was helping the Peace Corps? What do you think he was getting involved in? At least with Vanessa, she saw it clear as day, and she fully accepted it. She ain't making excuses. She ain't trying to act shocked. I mean, at least that's one way to go. The opposite end is just like, no, I'm not getting involved in this. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to know anything. Leave me alone. Don't like, and just walk away without, worry about getting caught up in like unnecessary danger. But these ladies walk right into the fire, and they got the nerve to complain of getting burned and getting smoke inhalation. That just blows my mind. And then you decided to snuff out a life in order to get back at a husband who was not condoning him getting involved in a mob life, but you trying to get back at him. That's only gonna hurt that's hurting you too. It's like, that's just evil. So, like I said, I don't condone put my hands on a woman, but I'm not shocked of his reaction. I mean, there was like a knee-jerk, out of the spur of the moment reaction that, not condoning it, but I think it's like, yeah. And kudos to Pacino's, just the facial features. Like, you saw him just, because when he yells, there's a yelly kind of guy. He knows how to yell. But when you see that bubbling of anger just pouring over his face, it's like his eyes twitching. You can see a vein popping out. And the fact that she was trying to rub it in his face, like, are you shocked that I'm more so shocked that he only hit you once. The level of restraint that took just to like back off after that one hit, because like most other guys would have like choked the life out of that woman. The fact that she was like rubbing in his face the way she was doing it. Anyway, then like finally wrapping up with Fredo saying that, look, like, I don't want nothing to do with you. No harm's gonna come to you. Like, as long as our mother's alive, like, like I ain't gonna even be bothered with you. Clearly, just out of sheer respect for their mother, because they already lost, too much with a son and a husband, so they can't, deal with losing anymore. But not too long after this, she start, passing away, and under the guise of forgiveness, he completely misled the whole forgiveness thing with his brother. And then another iconic scene is, him sailing out in the middle of the ocean to fish and getting capped. And the movie ends with, him sitting there contemplating what he just went through. Then we get into the third film, where like I said, is the lesser out of the three, where it's 1979 and Michael's 60 years old, and he's pretty much like dealing with the guilt of what happened on his rise to power. And now he has like his children are older, and he's having this little back and forth with his son, who he wants to go into law school to secure his future, but he wants to pursue his opera singing career. And it kind of mirrors Michael when he was young, where he didn't want to go the way where his father wanted him to go when it comes to going to college to secure his future. He wanted to join the military. So I'm just shocked that didn't pop into his head, or is in the way kind of, well, I guess because the concierge, in between 2 and 3 passed away, so there's nobody there to remind him. Like, it kind of reminds me of when you join the army despite, you know, uh, people's objections, because you wanted to go your own way. Because nobody there to remind him, because he definitely clearly forgotten. Because it's, it's kind of like with Back to the Future with Marty McFly, who seen his father, and because Marty wanted to pursue music, and he's worried about not being good enough, and he sees his father want to pursue a writing career, and he's worried about not being good enough, and it's like, that 1-to-1. So it's kind of, I was that aha moment kind of was put in here. Um, uh, but was at this party, and he's trying to go legitimate, get involved with like the Vatican and putting some investment in that, trying to get like some real estate, something or other. Then we meet up with Vincent, who is obviously the illegitimate son of his older brother Sonny, coming into his life, and then Vincent is getting involved with his daughter, which is their cousins, and it seems like I'm pretty sure it was another person, but it just seems like only Michael has any objections to it, and his ex-wife, who's trying to, because older now, he's reflecting now in his twilight years, is rekindling a relationship, and she's acting like, oh, love is love, and it's like they're in love, and it's like, no, lady, you should be grossed out by this. No cousins. It's like, you're not from the South. I don't know anybody even in Italy behave this way. It's like, no reasonable person looked at that and thinking this is okay in any facet. Oh, this guy, it was so gross. And it's like, no, who looks at their cousin like that? Who behaves around their cousin like that? Ugh. And they're just, I'm not sure what was going on in Coppola's mind as him and the writers was putting this together. I understand he didn't really want to make this film, but he managed to cobble up something that was still relatively decent. But it's like, who? It's like, I'm not trying to rewrite like these characters to not make them cousins, so it can at least be somewhat okay. But clearly they are, and like you could have, I don't know, you could have them being like having a close relationship without it going on borderline incest. It's so weird, man. I didn't even realize this, because like I said, it's been such a very, very long time since I've seen the Godfather trilogy, and rewatching it, I completely did not pick up on the fact that these two were cousins. Oh my god, that was so gross. Anyway, Vincent, like his father, got a temper to him. He has beef with his other mobster, uh, Joey Saza, played by another well-known actor, Joe Mantegna. You might, know him from his roles in Criminal Minds. Oh, it's Andy Garcia. I keep calling him like Armand Asante. It's Andy Garcia, who was Vincent Corleone. My mistake. I'm glad I caught that before the video ends, because I'm pretty sure you guys will be in the comment sections like, dude, you confusing the guys. And it's like, it's like, I'm so glad that I picked that up right now. Just so you know, that's who I meant when I'm talking about Vincent. Uh, uh, but uh, Michael decides, what, fine, I'll let my son pursue this career. Because it's like almost tells all his time. The parents, or at least one of the parents, wants this secure thing for their children to make sure their life is secure. Because that is like a parent's main job, to make sure their children's safety and security is dealt with before they're gone. Because once they're gone, they don't want to worry about anything happening to them. They want to make sure they're well taken care of, and have because we all been there, like pursuing, like, because we won't be supportive of a child's passions, but we also at the same time want to make sure that it's like a sure thing that they're getting involved in, so that way they can have like job security. But I'm curious to know if the parents ever picked up on this kid's fascination with singing. You never joined a choir, or join a play or anything of the sort, to hint that he's has some kind of clear interest in music, and you can have cultivated that at his younger years to make sure you were the Godfather. It's like, clearly you could have gotten him to like the best music schools or something like that in his younger years, so that way he can pursue his passion, and by the time he gets in his older, like in his like mid-20s, he would have something lined up or what have you. I'm not sure. This is kind of like that was unanswered kind of thing. I guess not really all that important. But trying to liquidate his casino affiliations, he bought himself out with the other bosses, those who had like a stake in it, depending on how long they had the stake in their part in it, determines how much they end up getting back. And of course, Joey doesn't get anything, so he feels like it's an insult. And of course, Vince don't like this guy because he's creepy and he's talking bad about his uncle. He ends up biting the guy's ear off like freaking Mike Tyson. So Michael looked at it as like, well, he's definitely like a hothead like his father, but he's loyal, so I can utilize that. So he brought him on. During this meeting, Joey leaves, and one of the other supposed trusted people in Michael's inner circle, what was his name? Don Altobello orchestrated an assassination attempt via helicopter, and during there, all but Michael, Vincent, and one of their enforcers made it out alive, and some dude clinging to his lucky jacket to dear life ends up getting lit up by assault rifles. And it's like, God, that is so dumb. That was like oh god, they make no freaking sense. What like I got favorite jackets too, but I'm not, it's like you gotta take out the hook. It's like you're struggling. I know adrenaline's pumping and fight or flight is like all over the place and what have you. But my god, man, you don't know how to take a coat off the hook and dive? Whatever. They made it out. Clearly, Michael's upset and wants to handle this. You see like a stark contrast between how he behaved in the first two films to how he behaves now, because he's a lot more kind of mellowed out in his elder years and want to handle things with as little bloodshed as possible. Despite Vincent being the young hothead now, just like a Corleone, wants to attack head first without a good plan. This upsets Michael enough that he ends up getting like a diabetic stroke, which sends him to the hospital. Everybody goes to visit him. Then the aunt, one of the I don't know, the guy is probably, I guess, another consigliere, and Vincent conspired together to deal with Joey, who clearly was responsible for this. Kind of mirroring how Vito dealt with that local crime boss back in the day, when that kind of parade kind of thing going on. So they ambush Joey, assassinate him, and then escaped. Clearly upset, but understands like what's done is done. But he also is privy to the fact that Vincent is getting really close, uncomfortably close with his daughter, and he says, "Put a stop to it." Like I mean, put a stop to it for both of your sakes, because it's not natural. Clearly, it shouldn't really have to be said. But realizing that his son got this big break in this big opera performance in Italy, and he managed to make it through that entire stroke situation, he took his family out to Italy, visit the old country, show his ex-wife the old stomping grounds of his father, and tells Vincent that, okay, clearly Don has something to do with this. I want you to pretend like you're going against me and you want to work for him, orchestrating a way to take him down, which they eventually do. But he wants to like be done with this. He wants to pursue this legitimate stuff with the whole real estate, with the Vatican, and they're trying to get like a new pope and get the one that they want. It doesn't make any freaking sense. I don't care for this personally, but he then decides, okay, I gotta retire. I can't pursue this, but I'm trusting Vincent to be the new Godfather, kind of mirroring how his wife saw him being accepted in his younger years. He's now watching another young upstart going in that same position. But he made him promise, like, this, there's a price that needs to be paid. You gotta not get involved at all with your cousin anymore. And he agrees, because this is something he clearly wants above all else. So some people get bumped off, but uh, there's one assassination attempt against um, Michael. They go to the opera, see Anthony, Michael's son, performs greatly. As they're leaving, the assassin try to take out Michael. He lets off two shots. One hits Michael in the arm, the other dead center in the center mass chest of the daughter. Vincent kills the assassin, and Michael screams in horror as he lost another child. The movie ends with another time skip as now a 70-year-old Michael is sitting in a courtyard where he has another stroke and he dies. Kind of like a fitting end to this infamous mobster in movie history. Unlike most others where they end up going down like a hail of bullets or getting locked up. And one of the things that I appreciate the first two films over this one seems too modern by comparison to the others because they felt more like particular time capsules, and this one feels like I said, because this came out in 1990. Is right after, right, the 80s is officially over. Well, Godfather 2 came out in 74, so 6 years. No, not six. No, so not 6 years. 16 years in between that time. Okay, quite a bit of people is definitely older, so it just feels like a regular 90s mobster movie that by itself would have been forgotten in the throes of time, not really hold up in high regard or memorable. But since they have the Godfather name attached to it, of course it is deemed still part of the tapestry. But it's just the first two just felt so particularly unique, especially the way it was shot. Because it felt more like a period piece in a way. Anyway, that was the Godfather Trilogy. Like I said, the first two hold in high regards. Still have a few nitpicks here and there, but by and large, they remain iconic. How would you rank the first two Godfather films? Clearly, nobody really holds the third one in that high regard. I'd be shocked to hear anybody say, "Oh yeah, Godfather 3 is I rank it number 2." Nobody would ever say that. I doubt anybody would really take that seriously. But which one you put above the other between Godfather 1 and 2? I'm curious to know. And what, besides Brando, Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro, whose performance really stood out for you aside from those three? Because James Caan is really up there, and I do love Robert Duvall, because most movies with Robert Duvall, he seems more more gruff. Right? He's very calm and collecting here. He's very I got this. That kind of guy, that trusted guy that try to keep everything even keeled as possible. I do like Robert Duvall's performance in here a lot. Never seen James Caan as a young hothead before. He's always been older, gruff dude. The father patriarch in certain films like Elf or what's that Stephen King movie? He always seems like that guy. But I do, despite my issues with Godfather 3, I do think Sofia Coppola's performance was really, really good. I do say that. Uh, anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow for more content. So take care and have a pleasant night. Peace.